Welcome to Leominster Access Television. My name is Bob Sardelli. I am a member of the Leominster Historical Commission. Today's Neighborhood Snapshot is a very special program. It will take us from a Leominster neighborhood, Lincoln Terrace, to Europe during World War II, and then it will bring us back to the city of Leominster. Our guests today are, and we welcome Mr. M. Donald Pimarini, a member. Don is a member of the chairman of the Leominster Historical Commission, and we welcome a very special welcome to Mr. Felix Gabrielli, Phil Gabrielli, a lifelong resident of Leominster and a former prisoner of war. And I must make the point that this program today is not about just Phil. It was very difficult to get Phil to do this interview. He does not consider himself a hero. He, in his own words, was a participant in World War II, along with so many other young men and women, individuals from the city of Leominster at that time, and throughout the United States. And we must also make the point that there were other young people at that time who wanted to go, but they either had obligations at home or were married or for physical reasons. So the World War II was a team effort, a total effort. And Mr. Gabrielli, Phil, is an individual, a gentleman, a true gentleman, a very articulate gentleman, I might add. And he was born in 1924 on Lancaster Street, but we'll get to the terrace in a moment. And he is a gentleman of 81 years young. Welcome, Phil.
Thank you.
Do you want me to start,
Donald,
Bob?
why don't you give us some background?
Well, why don't I start with a little background, Phil? I read the book. I couldn't read all of the book.
No,
it's so involved, but I did go through it, and I found that you're included in this book, along with my brother, Dante Piamarini. The thing is, what I'm going to talk about today is a good portion of this book, but we're going to get your little episode during that time in history, okay? So I'd like to start, first of all, with the family, because we are related. We're first cousins.
We are.
Okay, so to begin with, Phil, I'm going to talk about basically that time in history called the Depression years, and then the war years, and then later on you become a firefighter, and that episode you can talk about. But I'd like to begin with the family. Okay, the family background. The father was Constantino. Your mother was Mary Casassa. And Mary Casassa was the younger sister to my mother, Venerina Casassa Piamarini. Right? And at that time in history, you lived at 130 Lincoln Terrace. At least I remember it as such.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And you have sisters. You have Madeline, and you have Connie, and Rena. I don't know where they're located today, but I do know that they're still around. And they were a vital part of our family, the relationship between the Gabriellis and the Piamarinis. And my mother really thought very much of Mary. Mary was her younger sister, and they came from Italy in about 1909, 1910, and they came from Genoa, Italy, a little town called Micronesia, south of Genoa, okay? And as you were living on the terrace, I was living on 31 Crown Street. And of course, I want you to think about that time in history. I want you to think about the Spare Grass,
Yes.
Lincoln Woods,
Yeah.
Fallbrook, bocce at the Saladini Hall.
Oh, yes.
We swam at the Three Bears in Lincoln Woods.
I called them my era, they were the mud holes.
The mud holes, we call them the Three Bears.
Three Bears.
Oh, we used to call it the Bear Ass Ponds too, at
Yes,
Spadaro's,
yes.
right?
And Richardson's.
Okay, there were a lot of children on the terrace, and a lot of these children eventually participated in that World War II also, Phil,
They did.
along with you.
They
And
did.
just to briefly go through that name, and they'll come back to you, the Capones, the Perlas, the Angelinis, the Pellegrinis, the Piamerinis, the Ciccolinis, right? The Valeris, and of course, the Gabrielis, the Tossis, the Donatos, the Luccis, the DePoli, the Cosimis, Spinelli, Venturi, and then you were also friendly with the people down on Central Street. I do know this because my brother and you used to hang around together.
Yes, we
So you also knew the Perlas
Yeah.
on Central Street, the Lascatis,
Yes.
the Cayazis,
Yes.
and the Latanzios. And to repeat myself, a lot of these men, or a lot of the children of these people, were in the Second World War, along with you. And of course, the Navaroli, the Damazios, the Cines, the Lottis.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's just the beginning, Phil, of what this was all about, this time in history. And what we thought, Bob and I thought we would just kind of step through, step by step, of your lifestyle at that time. Can you elaborate a little more about the terrace before we go on to your school systems? You do remember all the names of some of the kids?
Yes. The Proietis were very prominent. They were a fairly large family, given the times. Large families were prevalent then. I guess large families today would be like 2. Then there were like 7, 8, 9. And it was sort of a healthy environment. We come back from school, change your clothes, get into play clothes, and do the things that most boys do. Get into a little mischief, maybe. Go jump the brook, go up to Lincoln Woods, and we'll go up to Richardson's and swim up there. No bathing suits.
Now that you really got out of the neighborhood. Now Richardson's now
Up on Union
on
Street.
Union Street. I'm thinking of okay.
Well, we would go through Lincoln Woods. It was a shortcut, and you could go up and you could swim there before the cows would water. There was a thing about you don't want to muddy up the water. Kids will do that.
And that was the former Richardson estate.
Yes,
which then
was quite an extensive area
was
up there.
the Spadaro Farm.
Became yes.
Became the Spadaro Farm, and then now it's all developed.
Excuse me.
There are roads and new houses and new housing development.
So we had a good camaraderie. We went to Lincoln School, and of course on to junior high, May Gallagher Junior High, and then to high school. Graduated in '43. Was drafted a week later after graduation. And most of my class, about 18 of us, got into the 168th engineers.
And that's the.
A lot of the names are familiar in the city because it was a cross-section of people that were drafted and that were in high school at the time, like Johnny Supple and Walt Osman and Jimmy Pritchard and others.
I'm going to shortly. I'm going to let Carl and Jack know that there's a photo of your class. It was and Phil, you said, and I was going to ask you about this, but I just learned just this moment. A week after graduation, and you were the high school class of
43.
43. So the war is going on. The war is going on, and a week after graduation, the selective service, the draft, which is something we don't have now. We have an all-volunteer army in 2006, although the Selective Service Act is still operating, and young men still have to sign up.
Yes.
They still have to register.
I think it's 18.
I think so, yes. But week after high school, drafted, and the class, you were drafted into the 168th Combat Engineers. And what...
Well, could you read that list? Why don't we read that list of the people that were in your outfit?
There's James Pritchard, myself, William Scully was our first casualty, but William Scully, Dante Pimerini,
Don's brother,
and Richard Lewis, Ralph Stupek, Walter Osman, and Ralph Lucci, Andries Landry, and James Mamoni, Robert McGinnis, Frank Piano, Andrew McDermott, Roland Bunnell. Roland Bunnell just passed away last year. Joseph Gaffney, Eugene Landgraf, and Roger Bourne. Ray LaFrance was in my class, and he became a member of the 168th, but only a short time, and then he was transferred out. So he doesn't consider himself a 168er because it was only probably 6 or 7 weeks into basic training that he got transferred. This is not uncommon in the military. Just when you think everything is going to go along smoothly, somebody comes up with an order. And you know, yours is not the reason why. These are 17 members that were
right out of high school, right?
Most of them, about eight of the graduating class of 43. Frank Piano was, we considered old. If you were 30, you were considered an old man.
Because you fellas were, what,
well, 18 and 19. And McDermott, there's others there that were not in the class who were members of the
168
of Leominster.
Leominster.
And residents.
Right. So this
eventually became part of the 168.
And there were many other young men from Leominster who were inducted, but this is specifically the 168th primarily.
As you understand the process, Devens was a big induction center, and thousands of people would go through there in a week probably.
And is that where you fellas went?
Yeah,
Your
we
first
went to Devens
stop?
and you took an exam. You took a physical exam. You were classified either 1A or 4F or limited service. They had an area in which you could still be in the military, but not in probably a combat unit, so that you would not be exposed to any kind of casualties of combat, and you get classified, and then you were then. There must have been a massive list, and they, as far as the 168th, all of the fillers, the enlisted or the selectees, we were classified as selectees, selective service. Some people were enlisted because they enlisted before they closed all of the enlistments and went through the whole system of selecting them from this huge body of people that they would take into the military. And so, because we had the excuse me, because we had the people there, they picked 500 and I think you have the number in the book, Muggs. Yes. 535 fillers that were designated the enlisted personnel that were selected to be part of the 168th. The 168th was a new battalion just formulated, And so we went from Devens by train to Colorado and trained there.
Now, why would they, the powers that be, choose you and your compatriots to be combat engineers? I mean, why not some other, what about the training? Was it because you were high school graduates? Do you think that was a part of it? Or?
Part of it. Also, you take an exam, you take a IQ exam. Most of the people in my unit, before the transfers came about later, were probably 115 or 120 percentile in the IQs, which is fairly good for the time, because just out of high school, and some of them had probably better grades because of life experience, you know. So that type of a unit requires you to be proficient in, you know, not just handling a rifle and being a rifleman, but doing the other jobs that are required.
And that, and maybe Don can talk to this. We were wondering, you know, combat engineers, what
exactly, it's confusing to us. See, we know what a combat infantryman is, but if you're talking about an engineer, our interpretation of engineer is to build roads, to build bridges, to you know, do all kinds of construction. But the term you're using of 168th is a combat engineer.
Yes, they have.
So then, therefore, you've had to been capable of combat. Now, were you trained for weaponry of all kinds?
Yes. Most people that are in the military will get a basic 6 to 8 weeks of basic infantry. You learn how to march, of course. That's part of the military. The idea of that is just that when one gives an order, you follow it. Most civilians, you know, do what they would like to do or want to do without having someone, you know, indicating what they want you to do. So the idea of close order drill, which is marching, is that one person gives a command, there's a command of execution, and it's done, and everybody follows. And the same thing applies to the basic. You learn about weaponry, you learn how to use it, how to clean it, how to take care of it. It becomes part of you, really. You learn about other weapons, machine guns, bazookas, how to throw a hand grenade properly. And those are basic duties that you will become proficient in as you go through your training. Then, for a combat engineer, you have another 8 weeks, 7 to 8 weeks, if I remember correctly. You get extensive engineering practices or duties. How to build a bridge, how to build a wooden bridge, how to build a there's another type of bridge like the Bailey section that you see sometimes used temporarily in the area when they're doing some excavation work. They'll throw a Bailey section. It's a metal portable bridge. Works very good. And we learned to do those things, and we also learned to deal with demolitions of all types. Nitrostats, TNT, dynamite, how to put in mines, how to take out mines, how to put in booby traps. These are things that take a little time, and it's, you know, I don't have to linger on it. It's kind of dangerous. One mistake and you can,
that's it.
You can be history. But those are all parts of the training. And when you get into combat, so that I can really answer Muggsy's question, we're always in the combat area. We might be attached to a division that's probably making a thrust in a certain area, where we give support. There might be mines that have to be cleaned. There might be a bridge that has to be thrown up because the Germans blew a bridge out, so we have to put up a portable bridge. And so we're always in a combat zone. We never leave a combat zone unless you're going on an R&R. And
I can understand your training for combat, but where were you trained to be an engineer, though?
At Devon's, or
Yeah.
did you?
no, that's Devon's was
Basic.
like I said, was just an induction center. The training took place in Carson, Camp Carson, which is Fort Carson now in Colorado, right outside of Colorado Springs, where the Air Force Academy is right now. And that was pretty extensive training, and you learn how to do all these things, and you're dealing with explosives a lot, and it's quite extensive, so that you know when you're in combat or when you're in a combat zone that if you're required to do something, if you're going to pull mines, let's say, you have to sweep for mines. You have a mine detector. You learn about those things in your training, and so. If you have a responsibility to pull up some mines that are in the way of a tank unit that wants to go through, you go out and do it. Sometimes they have their own engineers, but there are times when they need others, and we'd perform those things. There might be booby traps that had to be pulled.
So what you're saying, Phil, is sometimes you're in front of the infantry.
Oh, many times, yes. Yes.
In front of the tank man, too?
Yes. And you know something else? To me, this is a very aggravating point. It's only my personal opinion, but we do not get a combat infantry badge. The combat engineers cannot be issued a combat infantry badge, because you have to be in the infantry. You have to be a rifleman. But we were those things, amongst other things, but we don't qualify for some reason or other military. That's how they set it up, and I guess it's right. And an infantryman should get that additional pay because he is in the hazard most of the time.
Well, after reading your 168th, well, I have to say that you people were infantrymen.
We were.
You were infantrymen.
Yeah.
For 6 or 7 days, you were infantrymen.
Yeah. And in other parts in France.
In other battles.
Yeah.
Prior to the Battle of the Bulge.
Were you trained other than Camp Carson? Were you also trained in Tennessee?
We went to Tennessee on maneuvers, and maneuvers, they're war games, and they're primarily for officers to be able to move large amounts of troops and to give them the experience of handling high numbers of personnel, and there we also participated in bridging the Cumberland River. There's a Cumberland River that runs down in Tennessee, quite a swift river, difficult to bridge. And we would do the things that you would encounter in actual combat zone. How to place mines, how to recover mines, the requirement to build a bridge, and there would be these would be problems that we would do on a weekly basis. 1 week we would be trying to bridge the Cumberland River, and then other times we would place mines, and it would be actual combat in the respect that there would be a red army and a blue army, and there would be umpires.
So you were well trained then.
I would say that we were pulled from maneuvers because we were a pretty so-called hot outfit, and we were scheduled to go to.
And when you left Tennessee, did you go back? Did you immediately go overseas? Or?
No, we went back to Colorado, back to Carson, and got ready to go to England.
I have a note here, Shanks, New York.
Yeah, Camp Shanks.
Camp Shanks. Now, where?
That's a port of debarkation.
Did you have a furlough in between?
Yes, I was fortunate to get a 2-week furlough.
So from Shanks, New York, that's the port of
debarkation.
To Europe?
Oh, embarkation. Embarkation. Debarkation when you come back.
To Europe. Mm-hmm. All right, and so the war is going on, and the 168th gets shipped to Europe. Now,
I'd like to ask him if he can remember the name of the ship.
I can tell you the name of the ship. There was a Liberty ship. I cannot tell you the name of it.
Okay.
I think Dean put it in his hinder forward. I can tell you the one I came back on.
Well, you know what I was going to ask you, Phil? At that time in history, in 43, this is still 43?
Yes.
Were you escorted? Did you go over alone? In other words,
no.
The German submarines were out there.
They were.
And how many men are on board ship? The whole battalion?
The whole battalion, I think there was a tank outfit, excuse me, and a artillery unit. It might have been a battalion. There's quite a number of guys on the vessel. The Liberty ships were quite a ship. They built a ton of them, and they're pretty seaworthy. But we were, I would only be guessing that there were 50, 60 ships there.
In the convoy?
Yeah.
And how long did it take for the convoy?
We left, it took close to 2 weeks.
2 weeks on the ocean.
And we had scares. We had times when there were subs in the area. Everything gets locked down. You get back into the whole different levels in the ship, and everything is watertight. If you catch a torpedo, you know, it's kind of bad in the respect that it's really not much of a chance of getting out because everything is closed up. But fortunately, we had Canadian corvettes and destroyers that were running they run the routes in between the ships, and they were dropping depth charges.
According to your book, there wasn't one transport that carried American troops that was ever sunk by a German sub.
There wasn't one transport?
No, not one transport. I guess the coverage was pretty good. Your escorts were pretty good.
They were. You could hear when you're in a hold down, say 4 decks down. You can hear the vibration from the depth charges because water being so dense, and the sound travels and it bounces off the hull of the ship. And you knew they were dropping depth charges. Whether they were hitting anything, I wouldn't be able to know.
Must have been a frightening
But we got
experience.
through that area, that critical area, when they didn't have the coverage, overhead coverage.
And the convoy makes it to England.
Mm-hmm.
And I have in my notes Wales, Wrexham, and Oxford. So tell us something about that, please, Felix.
Well, we come into Bath, England. In fact, they found from the bombings that took place, some German bomb dropped in this area in Bath, and when they uncovered it, they found an old Roman bath there, and I guess that's where the name came from originally, but I'm not sure of that. And then British people were very friendly towards us, and were very accommodating. We went to Wales. Wrexham is in North Wales. You wouldn't know that. I mean, England is just a series of different peoples, really. Wales is Welsh, a different ethnic group than the Anglo-Saxons, and then you get the Scotch, and of course the Irish. And we went there and did some training. We learned to build the British portable bridge, which is called the Bailey Bridge, much better than ours, and we learned to build that one. And we bridged the Thames River a few times, maybe a few 20 or 30 times.
All practice for
practice
for the upcoming.
I'd like to know how the English
across the channel,
how they treated you. How did they treat the American soldiers at that time in history? The Welsh.
There were some people who were sort of standoffish from us, and there were others that accepted us pretty nicely and, you know, very friendly and everything. I know my cousin Dante, who was in C Company, was billeted in a house, and they were not very friendly towards it, to the guys there, because we're sort of Johnny-come-lately in the war. Wasn't anything, you know, we could give him an answer to. I mean, to begin with, it wasn't our war to begin with. So, but when we finally did get into it, we did our part.
Certainly did.
Did the women treat you people all right?
Women were very friendly. Sometimes too friendly.
Now, you get, all right, we're going to get into, all this is training, all this is preparation.
Yes.
I'd like to know how long a period of time was he in England?
We got there in May. We hit France in middle of July.
I have July 24th, 1944, Utah Beach.
Right.
All right, Don, why don't you?
Well, I really don't know when he gets into England. When did he land in England? Was it in 43 or 44?
No, 44.
Oh, so you were in England during the winter months then? Must have.
We had a situation, I don't know if Dean had it in the, I know he has it in the book. I can't tell you the chapter, but...
and Dean is the author of the book.
Yes, he was the company clerk. He was the company clerk in B Company.
Of the 168th.
College grad, history major. He's became a lawyer, but...
It's well done.
Oh, he is.
It's well done. And absolutely complete. I don't know, hundreds of pages.
Well, you know, he's a clerk. He keeps good records. It's more a chronicle than a story. It's just events that took place on a daily basis, and he kept good records on it. But from the beginning, when we were pulled from maneuvers, we were to assist the first, the only brigade-sized unit, amphibious engineers, to pull the mines and the booby traps and all the traps that the Germans had set up in the water for LSTs and the like.
This is in Normandy.
Yeah. We were to
Utah Beach.
We were to come out and assist them and train with them in Ireland to make H-hour before the invasion. But we lost a person in Shanks, when we were in Camp Shanks. And this was our schedule to go to Ireland. All our equipment went to Ireland, and we were to train there and get ready for the invasion.
For D-Day, prior to D-Day.
Prior to D-Day, right. And that's the job of the amphibious engineers. There was only one unit that I know of, the first amphibious engineers brigade size. That's probably like 3 battalions. I'm going to guess around 1,800 people. Their casualties were immense. Huge, huge amount of guys to get. And we lost a man from spinal meningitis.
In America, in the United States.
In Shanks. So we were quarantined for 2 weeks.
Oh.
So that whole process got interfered with, and our unit was replaced with another unit, and we had to go through that quarantine period, and then we embarked for England. But
So,
the whole program changed.
so you would have been in on D-Day?
Yes, prior to D-Day, yeah. That was
So-
why we were pulled from maneuvers.
That's
was
something
really-
new.
Yeah.
I read the good portions of the book, but I didn't realize.
One man probably saved 70–80% of us.
Wow. Because of his spinal, the meningitis, and then being the quarantine
He was
period.
a young fellow from Natick.
Well, at that time in
How
history,
things happen.
there were no real antibiotics, so meningitis could kill people. It could kill a whole outfit, or at least come down with the disease.
Yeah.
Well-
I remember when it happened, and he made mention he had a terrible headache, and he went to sick hall to get some remedy, and that was on a Monday, and Wednesday he died. And that's usually the case with spinal meningitis. It can be very fatal very quickly, or you can be left pretty well impaired. Let's say. I don't know just what the condition is if you don't die, but I know it's not very good.
So you embarked to France then?
We went back to England and got reassigned, got into another group, took our training with the Bailey sections, and when we were ready to go, we went to Liverpool and jumped off from Liverpool to
Utah Beach. This was post D-Day. This was after the invasion, and the battles are going on now. Don, I think
July 24th.
Okay, and can you tell us some of the battles? Maybe Don
I
can-
have you were in St. Malo. Is that the name of it?
St.
And
Malo.
Brest. Now Brest.
Dinan.
Yeah, but Brest is
But Brest
not
is on-
in line with Paris. Brest, you got to swing way around like
Way
this.
over. The beginning of the North Sea, the channel, really. Brest is on the western portion of Normandy, or Brittany, as it,
And what was the reason of going to Brest?
well, there was a large group of Germans holding out there, and we were part of the force trying to get them out. And I think by September, the Germans finally
Yes, the information I have.
capitulated. And I mean, it was a losing battle for them because there was no way that they could get logistics or supplies or anything. They were completely cut off.
I have here that there were some submarine pens there also.
There were submarine pens along that area of France. I can't think of the name of it. There's a town there that the Germans built large pens, concrete. You see them in construction, like if you're building a culvert, it's sort of a semicircle concrete, but these were huge things, and
super strong.
subs could go right into them, and bombs didn't affect them. And they got bombed a lot of times,
Oh, well, my brother has a little story on that, Phil. perhaps you know the story too. They couldn't get them out of the pens, so they had some vents on the top of these domes.
Right, sure.
And so the engineers dropped down the vents. They dropped whatever the explosives, whatever you people.
Satchel charges.
Well, whatever they were,
Yeah.
they dropped them down, and then, of course, there was not. I guess it was their air intake, or so they had to leave.
Yeah.
So that's when they surrendered.
Yeah.
But I understand when the 168th went in, they found large caches of French champagne. Did you hear about that one?
No, but see, the thing about a battalion is you usually deal with 5 or 6 people that you come in contact with in your squad. C Company could be another division. Dante was in C Company, and their assignment was, as Muggsy just related, they were assigned a particular job to do, and they did it. And we were doing something else. We were in an area where there was. I can't even begin to tell you the amount of munitions that were there. Large munitions for 16-inch cannons.
These were the German.
Yeah, and they had them stacked up,
ammunition
row
dumps.
up on row, and all the powder kegs, tremendous amounts of munitions there. Because they were there for about 3 or 4 years, so they were able to stockpile quite a bit of stuff. And so we all had, each company was assigned different duties of responsibility, and this is why we got the Southern Brittany campaign, and the French have awarded the French Croix de Guerre for certain units that were in that area at a time period. If you were there at say from the beginning of we'll say July to August or something, then your unit qualified for that. So some of the people in my outfit have
Get your glasses down there.
I got it. Have received the French Croix de Guerre. We have the Belgian Croix de Guerre, but the French Croix de Guerre was a long time coming for some reason.
French recognized.
So during this time period from Omaha, Utah to Brest, you're in combat. So you're getting experience, and you're not losing any personnel as yet. Was Scully?
Billy Scully and 2 other people in the Jeep got hit by a round, and it took everybody out. Mm-hmm. They were on a recon mission, and they got into an area that was zeroed in. It seems that if they were on roads, and especially heavily traveled and necessary roads that you have to negotiate, and especially at the crossroads, they'll usually try to zero those in. They'll have their artillery or mortar teams in an area that
the German army had,
and they can drop them right into that area. So if you happen to get near there and you're not aware of it until around you hear it coming in, and you hear them a lot of times, but you don't always attach the significance of that area being zeroed in. Yeah. When you get an area zeroed in, you got to be very careful, because you don't know that until you get into the area. And then this is what happened. From what I understand, I didn't see it happen. Don't misunderstand that. I didn't see it happen, but it was related that the round hit the front of the Jeep and took them all out.
Mm-hmm. Phil, from Dean Jewett's book, the 168th, the battles. Now we've got the war is furiously being waged in Europe, and the 168th. Once you got from you're there, the battle for Dinard, France. The the 6th to the 14th of August, 44. The Battle for Saint Malo, how do you pronounce that?
Saint Malo.
Saint Malo, France, the 6th to the 16th of August, 44. The Battle for Brest, which we talked about in the pens, the submarine pens, France, the 25th of August to the 18th of September, 44. And then the next one is the Battle of Saint Vith, Saint, how do you pronounce that? Saint Vith?
Saint Vith.
Saint Vith in Belgium.
There's a very pronounced Belgique French pronunciation of Saint. We always just went with Saint Vith because it's V-I-T-H. But
now, now
I'd
I know.
like to ask him a question.
Okay.
In order to get from Brest to Saint Vith, that's a long way.
From France.
yeah,
Well, he's going to go to Belgium, right?
that's a 4-day trip.
In other words, you don't get into Paris at all.
We went through Paris.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Remember now, the Germans finally gave up the defense of the Normandy area, Brest, and as you go up to where the British had a tough time, Rouen, towards the northeastern part of France, they began to pull back. I think sometimes you will see film on how the Germans were giving up that section of Paris to get France to get back to the Siegfried line, to get back to their defensive positions, because there just was no way that they could take. They took a lot of casualties in Brittany and in that area of France. They took a lot of casualties.
Did you see any of these casualties?
Yes, yes.
Did you encounter any of the American personnel in their armor moving along with you?
Oh, yes.
Somewhere in the book I read something that Patton got involved. Did he talk to someone in your outfit or something?
Yes, yes. It seems that in one area of, let's call it Brittany, because it's a large area as you get in towards, let's say about 50 to 75 miles from the beaches inland. The Germans had a lot of difficulty, and they were taking tremendous casualties. And their armor, they had superior armor to our Sherman tanks. Their tanks were much better, but they didn't have the cover. They didn't have the air cover, so they were getting decimated. And I'm probably now losing track of a couple of comments here that you made there, Muggsy, about seeing the casualties and what?
Yes. Did you see anything like that at all?
Both German and American?
Mostly German.
Oh, yes. I'll tell you, it was a very moving sight to see the amount of humanities that were laid out there. I mean, the equipment, and it was just, it was tough to see, because you look at the humanity part of it, and, you know, and these are kids that probably were drafted just like we were. But
right, the German,
you don't look
German
at it that
kids.
way. I mean, bang, that's it. But it made an impact.
I'm going to insert a little story here that I picked up some time ago, Phil, just to relax things. We have a member of the commission. His name is Sherwin Drury, and he came up to me one day some years ago, and he said, "Muggsy, could you do a history of Troop 1 Leominster?" And I said, "I certainly can."
Boy Scout troop.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Boy Scout troop. It's associated with the Unitarian Church.
Right.
So I said, "I'm familiar with Boy Scouts," and I knew the fellow at St. Anna's, Tato. And so I'm sorry?
Clemtator.
Yeah, Scott, yes. And so he said, well, you can go to the scout office in on Ponican Road, that place there near Fort Pond.
Yeah.
And you can get the history, and I go to the church and get the history. So every year, the scoutmaster has to give a report, right? So I'm reading all the reports. And I'm reading this fellow by the name of Winthrop Lear. And I read from 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, something like that. And I'm thinking, this guy is brilliant. He's brilliant. His name is Winthrop Lear. And I'm thinking, this man must be in his 70s now, right? So I go up to Sherwin and I said, Sherwin, here's the report. I would like to know if Winthrop Lear is still around. I'd like to talk to him because he's such a brilliant guy. He says, well, Muggsy, you'll have to go to St. Lo. He said, St. Lo in France? I said, yes. He says,
He's in the cemetery.
he's in the cemetery. And I said, oh, that's too bad. He said, well, let me tell you. They were bombed by American bombers. They made a mistake. You know that story?
Part of the 30th Division.
I don't know the story, but he said the Americans came over and they didn't know that the Americans had occupied the site. So they bombed it.
Yeah.
So there were American casualties.
A lot of them, yeah. They killed a general officer, probably a brigadier, but I mean, I'm thinking probably divisional.
So people can die from friendly fire.
Well, as you said, they occupied an area that the coordinates, as far as the Air Force was concerned, that those were the coordinates that they had to bomb.
And the Air Force.
You know, you're up 12, 15,000 feet. Maybe not that high, but you're going by coordinates. You say, okay, here's the area. We drop them. If the guys are there, you know, that's a hell of an experience to get hit by your own bomb.
That still happens. That still
Yeah,
happens.
it did, and it did. My grandfather, when I was on leave before we went overseas, we were talking about casino, that the campaign in Italy, that the British 8th and the 5th Army, I think it was General Clark, and he was saying they're going to have quite a hard time taking that area. And I was kind of hesitant about accepting that, you know, but then when you think about it, that's where he came from. He came from Italy, and he probably was familiar with that area, even though he was a northerner, being from Genoa. And he was right. It took quite a while before, and they had to bomb that abbey.
Right.
They had
Monte
to bomb it.
Yes.
You know, it's almost sacrilege in that respect that they had to take it out, but hey, you have to do what you got to do.